Hello, everybody, and welcome to our series about customer success. Today, I will be interviewing Paulina Lehmann. She worked for Remote Year, and she started customer success there. Hello, Paulina. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Lotte, I'm doing really well, thank you.
Me too, thank you. Thank you for joining this interview. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and about Remote Year?
Yes, of course. I'm originally from Mexico City, but I've been living outside of Mexico for over 15 years. And I have been, my career has shifted very many different ways. I started as an educator when I was working in the US, and then I changed careers about 4 years ago when I started with Remote Year. And during Remote Year, I have been also moving to different roles throughout the last 4 years of working with them. Remote Year is a platform for digital nomads, or what they call digital nomads, or really anybody who can work remotely. And we give the platform to be able to work and travel. And I worked for Remote Year for about 4 years. Right now, due to COVID and all of the current situation, Remote Year is on pause, but we all have faith that they will come back, me included, because I absolutely love what we used to do, providing a very good experience to anyone that could take on their work on the road.
Okay, great. And what did it entail? Then you helped them with the traveling arrangement?
Yes, so what Remote Year does, or did, whatever, what they do is they provide the platform to allow people to work and travel. And the platform itself was form of travel, accommodation, workspaces, and local experiences throughout the world and in every city where these communities traveled. At the same time, they also had a staff member that traveled with them. And there were groups of people of 30 to 70 people traveling together. And it provided also a community aspect. And for a lot of people that work remotely or the typical digital nomads, one of the big problems is that you're traveling by yourself, and it can get lonely. Loneliness is kind of a thing. And that's why co-livings and programs like Remote Year started popping up in the last couple of years, because that aspect of trying to find community was a big thing for the people that could go to a coffee shop and work. But yes, you can go and work from any coffee shop, but can you make friends? Can you build a community in the city you are? And so we provided all of that from point A to B, even preparation, pre-launching of your trip. And then also, as Remote Year programs graduated, we would say, quote unquote, then we also provided an after graduation, after your program finished, what happens? A lot of people went home, or what they used to call home. A lot of people wanted to keep traveling. So we started also developing products for what we used to call citizens, who are Remote Year graduates, right? Kind of like that. And so it developed from being just providing flights, accommodation, and co-working, to providing many, many, many different things that perhaps you couldn't see right on the website. I think there were also a lot of things that we provided that they weren't quite seen automatically, right?
Yeah. Okay, wow. So you started customer success at Remote Year. Yeah.
Yes.
How did that go? How did the implementation go in the beginning? And
yeah, so my very, very first role, and I would say to all of my coworkers, especially all of the people that dealt with the customers on a day-to-day basis, the city teams that were working on the ground, which is the very first job that I started with Remote Year, to the program leaders, to the managers, it was a constant face-to-face communication with our customers, with what we call the remotes, the participants. And eventually we realized that we needed a customer success team to be able to oversee the journey of a remote, the journey of a traveler from the beginning, which was prepping people to the digital nomad life, prepping people to be able to leave their homes. A lot of people came and they were like, but I have a house and I have a pet and I have a car. What do I do? You know, so being able to help them from the very beginning, people that were inexperienced travelers, people that were experienced travelers, people that, you know, many different kinds of customers, from point A all the way to like finishing a program and seeing them after. And we realized that we needed a customer success team to make sure our customers felt cared for, felt heard with feedback, and all of that. And so we started that team, which combined the onboarding team, which basically was onboarding all of our customers to the program, and our citizens team, which meant we overlooked at the citizens, the people that have graduated. And it was very interesting, specifically because I had been with Remoyer from quote unquote some of the beginning parts of it. I mean, I saw the first 4 groups that ever touched down Mexico City when Mexico City opened up as a first city 3.5 years ago. And so I had seen the journey of our remote year program from the very beginning to the very end. And it was very interesting to see exactly what the customers even went through, and understanding more about their journey, understanding their needs, understanding that they need to be heard, and that there are changes and improvement that us as a company can do to provide a better service for all the many very different types of people that came on board. So I hope I answer your question in a very broad way.
Yes. So what were the different processes that you implemented? So you already mentioned onboarding.
Yeah, so we had the onboarding, and for example, for the beginning of the onboarding, we started developing webinars, very interesting webinars, from very simple webinars about pre-planning, you know, like just helping them with questions on what to pack or how to get rid of your house, to, for example, diversity and inclusion webinars that we hosted to pre-prep people to travel with. For example, I mean, it's something very interesting. As travelers, they would travel and they perhaps wouldn't think that traveling with 35 people that are completely different than you, that come from very different backgrounds, would be a challenge. And the reality is like, yeah, there are going to be challenges, and there are going to be people that have different traditions than you, or behave differently than you, or perhaps there are people who love to party and there are people who don't, and people who drink, people who don't drink, people who are religious, people who aren't, you know, all these different mixes. So we provided webinars that included a lot of diversity and inclusion, included a lot of helping them plan. We also, for example, implemented something that got implemented along the years was feedback forms, where we would send feedback at the end of a journey, at the end of every month. And we would, all the managers, especially the customer success team, would read all of these feedback, and month to month make changes to our platform, make changes to improvement on city teams, improvement us as, especially for what we used to call pre-modes, which are the people the onboarding process, the people that hadn't started remote year, because a lot of it was also expectation setting. And we didn't really learn that until we started seeing that some of the feedback forms would express different kinds of opinions about how we had prepared them for their journey. And so we realized that a lot of it had to do with expectation setting, that even started, you know, with the sales team as a customers, you know, if especially in these kinds of things, when there is the sales team selling this kind of product and they are hearing what remote year is all about from that beginning step, and then coming on to us with onboarding. And it was a lot of teamwork, especially for our team, because we were working with the sales team, we were working with the city teams, we were working with all the managers managing the city teams. And it was a lot of teamwork and team building on building the best product possible.
Yeah, you already mentioned that not all people were the same. You had customers all over the world.
Yes.
Yes. Did you have different processes in different countries because you have different cultures and so different ways to reach out?
That's a very interesting question. We didn't have a specifically different processes for different countries, but for example, let's just, something simple is visas. There were customers, for example, I'll say like US customers who probably had the least amount of visas that they needed to get to travel to, from 1 month. If they did a 1 month program, it was very easy because you can go and stay in a country for 3 months or whatnot. But if we did a 6 month program, if they went to Asia, they probably only needed one visa. If they did other, it was very interesting versus, for example, people from India or people from Brazil who needed, or even, well, I don't think people from Mexico, maybe people from Mexico only needed a visa for South Africa. People from Brazil needed also a visa for South Africa. Just different types of visa questions that involved us as the onboarding team and the customer success team working with these people on, for example, that topic. And that had a slightly different process with depending on the country. And for that, we also offered a lot of one-on-one meetings. So we would jump on a Zoom call with our customers one-on-one to make sure that they were comfortable and all of their questions had been answered. We developed also a lot of online materials and information where people could easily click and read all the information and links that will take them directly to the platform where they can apply for visas and things like that. In terms of other things, it was one funnel. We would have all of these people kind of go through the same process together, and then variations if they needed something specific. Of course, remote year, the language we all used at remote year was English, even though we had people from all over the world. And I believe it was very small amounts of maybe one or two people in the sales team that were bilingual or trilingual and spoke other languages. But I do believe that most of our customers had to speak English because that was the language we used. But yeah, I mean, it was sort of the same process with variations.
Okay. Yeah. Also, mostly when you're traveling, you also speak English, so I think it's most logical. So, how often were you in contact with your customers? You already mentioned if they needed a Zoom call, you got one-on-one. But was there? How regular did you reach out to them?
Me personally, I would say that I would talk to customers maybe 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, whether it was a Slack message or an email that I would answer, or that would help my team, I will say 3 to 4 times a week. My team, who was the onboarding team and the citizens team, they would probably be in touch with customers daily, especially perhaps just over email, whether it was just responding to the emails that we would get. We would get emails every day, definitely. And the city teams, they have access and contact with their customers basically 24/7, as long as when we're running, which was 365 days of the year. The entire year they would just be in contact with the customers. It was very rare that you wouldn't talk to someone who had a question or needed something, or if they had an event and they needed to send out information.
Yeah.
So it was very, very a lot of contact with our customers.
Okay. Did you also proactively reach out? So for the
Yes.
feedback and.
Yeah, definitely. We would be sending emails. We would also send, specifically also for the beginning journey of the customers, we would send out reminders, or we would try to engage them in conversation. So we would send a Slack post in a specific group saying like, good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, and you have, I don't know, 2 months from your trip, and we would like everyone to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what you do. And it would start a Slack thread, and people will start talking in an online forum, but we will try to initiate those conversations to get them to talk to each other and to ask questions. So yeah, we would initiate definitely some of those conversations, specifically because the customers didn't know each other. And so it was very much us needing to do some of the, teaching, some of the mentoring, so that they could feel comfortable without knowing who else was going to be traveling.
Okay. What did you do when customers wanted to enter the program earlier than they first applied for?
Sometimes we would change them. So like, for example, we had definitely customers who, I don't know, they wanted to travel in September. And then they realized that, I don't know, their apartment their apartment lease ended a month early, and they would be like, is it possible for me to start a program earlier? And we would change them programs. And that was what we called a transferring a program. And that happened in both ways. People who wanted to leave early and people who were like, oh my gosh, I realized that, my sister's getting married in September. Can I please, actually, I would prefer to live in October, or, things like that would happen with life. And we would help them find a better program for them. There were people who perhaps started with 6 months and then they realized they actually wanted to travel an entire year, or vice versa. And so we will help them do a transfer program.
Okay. Did you also, if some customer wrote a bad review about remote year, how did you handle that?
A lot of the times we would try to avoid the bad reviews. We would, if a customer had just a bad experience or wasn't happy with what they were receiving or whatnot, we would try to jump on a conversation with them before the bad review happened. As we all know from experience, I think personal experience with any kind of situation, and seeing now I'm a sucker for the reviews right now. And for every business that I perhaps attend to, I do read the reviews, and there are some reviews that I read of things that I want to purchase that I'm like, okay, this customer perhaps just was not happy. But it doesn't necessarily reflect the product or reflect the company. There are some reviews that are very constructive that I'm like, oh, this is actually like very helpful. Like perhaps I should consider going this route, or perhaps, even if I buy something. So when we had our bad review out there, we would always respond. I think we will always try to respond and try to make means and have the customer understand why things happen the way they happen. I think also in the travel industry, a lot of people realize that there are a ton of different logistics that have to happen for things to be live. And sometimes some of the customers will be like, no, but I don't know. So just an easy example will be people that perhaps their trip started in September, and 1 week before they were like, actually, never mind, can I be changed? And you're like, actually, you can, but we already pay for your or pre-reserved your accommodations and pre-reserved your flights. And, there are things that have a lot of logistics. In terms of flights, for example, I had no idea until I joined Remote Year. Some of the travel team would have to set reservations for flights almost a month up in advance. And so, for example, for people to opt out of a transition, of a trip that they would take from point A to B, we needed to get notice. Maybe I think it was like a 65-day notice. It was a big notice in advance to avoid losing the flights that we had already pre-booked for them. And so all of these little things that I think customers perhaps didn't know about or didn't quite understand of the process, and they would just be really angry because we couldn't refund them, or we couldn't really switch them without a penalty fee, or we couldn't refund their money because the deposits were non-refundable, and they read it, but then nobody ever reads the fine print, which is something that now I really do. If I'm going to buy something more expensive, I always now read the fine print, or try to really make sure I'm understanding the refund process before I buy anything expensive or anything like that, which I think you have to do as a customer. I think we forget a lot that us as customers should do our homework as well. And to be honest, I just don't think I learned that's important until I became part of what the customer success team is, right? And you can't tell the customer, you should have done your homework. That's not something you can or should tell them. But we try to make amends always. We always try to at least find possibilities to help them and make sure that they didn't leave remote year with a sour taste in their mouth, or that they would understand that the company is evolving. And of course, we are learning also from our mistakes, like any company would. Bad reviews are never easy to swallow, but if you take whatever constructive it's out there, then you can only improve from the bad reviews, I think, and the good ones as well. You can. I think also something that I would do a lot with my team was, yes, let's definitely dissect the bad reviews and read them, and even though they are and can be hard, and let's not take it personal and work from them.
Yeah.
And then also rejoice from the positivity. Also rejoice from the positive reviews, because it's very important also to see what are you doing well and what should you continue to do well to avoid churn, to avoid people from leaving, to avoid, because it's very important. It's very easy to dwell on the bad and forget about the good. And I think it's, as a customer success team, it's super important to do both at the same time. I feel like I always compare it kind of like one of those machines at the gym where you're the stepper, where you're stepping with both feet and you're going up, and it's like that. You have to look at the bad and the good, and the bad and the good, and work on both simultaneously. Because both will happen. It's impossible not to have somebody who disagrees with something you're doing, right? So
yeah, it's really good advice, because when I want to buy something, I always look at the reviews, and I always find it a very, very good sign if the company answers bad reviews, because that also shows that they are concerned with it and they want to improve, and you get a better understanding why something went wrong. And yeah, so it's really good to just address it and try to make it clear, and then just ignore it. It's good advice.
Yes, definitely. I just, this is a simple, quick example that I will give from a company that I think it's doing a phenomenal thing. It's this clothing company called 2/3. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
And what they do is they have this pre-ordering kind of system where you pre-order the clothes when you purchase them. And it tells you on the website, if you pre-order this item, it will take about a month, because pre-ordering means the item doesn't exist. We will be making it for you to avoid waste. Their company is about avoiding waste and avoiding overproduction of garments. And when I went on the website, on the review website on Trustpilot to kind of read about them, a lot of people were complaining about, but the wait was too long. I waited a month. And they would respond to all the bad reviews saying, no, but we have it on our website that it says pre-ordering. And I remember thinking, yeah, when you order something, you have to be conscious of what you're doing, right? And read and educate yourself. And I remember I ordered my items, and they did take a month to get here. Superb quality. And I actually did make the effort as a customer to go and write a review for them. And actually in my review, be very, very explicit with like, yes, it takes long to get your item, but I knew about this and I was okay with it. And I think it's superb that they are doing this because ABC, right? But it's definitely something that a lot of teams should consider, really always responding to the reviews out there. It's definitely something that if teams can do, they should.
Yeah, indeed. Is there anything else you want to share about customer success?
I think just personally, it has been a big journey for me to go from, I recently was talking to somebody, and they asked me, they were like, do you think your last role is the most similar to customer success, or being directly talking to the customers as it's ever been? And I responded to this lady and I said, you know what, this is a very interesting question, because yes, even though my last role is the most customer success oriented, ironically, I feel like I have always, in any role that I've worked in my life ever, since I was a teacher, my customers were right there with me. They were the students and they were the parents. And if you work for a private school, you have heard or will hear about helicopter parents, the famous helicopter parents, who are the parents that want to be involved all the time. And I realized from the very, very early stages of my professional career that constant and honest communication with your customers, whatever customer you may have, from students to parents to travelers, to people who buy your product, to big companies that perhaps are using your service. There's definitely different types of customers. It's the most important thing is to always be empathetic, to always be open, to always be honest, to always listening to the customer and their needs. And I think one of the most important ones is to always be willing to improve, no matter what. I think it's very important that as customer experience or customer service agents, from people on the phone to people reading reviews to people managing the customer success teams, constant improvement, constant clarity, communication, they are keys. And I think also something, I think this is an American term, but always what they used to call, or what they call TLC, tender love and care. I think it's very important to be able to have that with your customers, even from writing emails or writing responses. And putting a little bit of TLC, the famous TLC, into writing an email goes a long way. And I think I've noticed that from the very beginning, just making sure that shows. And I think it's something that can be taught, but sometimes it cannot. And I realized that you have to be really warm and be a people person and be able to not take no for an answer, but also at the same time not be rude. And also sometimes we also had to be firm. There were instances where we had to be firm, but also be friendly. And so learning that, or in my case, I don't know if I was born with it or little by little, as my professional journey kind of took me to where it is now. I've just learned those along the way and really taking those with me wherever position I go to.
Yeah, it's really good advice, because it's true. Everyone has customers. No matter what your profession is, everyone has customers in one way or another. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for this interview and all these insights.
No problem. And if you have any other questions, just don't hesitate to tell me, and I can send them to you, so that your listeners can always, if they have a question or they want an advice in something, we're all here to support each other, especially nowadays.
Yes, that's true. Thank you so much.
No problem.